Okay, I think we're live, Elric.
Hi, Christina.
Hello, good morning, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Predictable Live. This is where you get free coaching from top B2B sales development experts. Our mission as a company is to educate the world on how to grow a business by creating repeatable, scalable, and predictable revenue through sales development. My name is Christina Esposto. I'm a sales and strategy coach here at PR, and I'll be your host today. I'm chatting with Eric Legois. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Close enough? Okay, perfect. Eric is from Chili Piper and very excited to have him here today. A wealth of experience in the SDR world. So Eric, welcome. You're in Paris right now. I'm very jealous of that. I wish I was in Paris right now. But why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm the enterprise SDR manager at Chili Piper. So I just got promoted 2 weeks ago. But before that, I was an SDR manager for almost a year and working with the mid-market team here at Chili Piper. And I've been an SDR also for 3 years. And so I've done both the SDR role and the SDR manager job also. On top of Chili Piper, I'm also having an SDR community where I'm sharing a newsletter every Sunday, and I'm helping almost 1,000 people right now.
Awesome. That's great. That's quite the trajectory for you. So before we get into it, we're gonna have lots to talk about today, but just a little bit of housekeeping for our listeners here. If you have any questions or comments about the SDR roles and what we're talking about today, please leave them in the chat so we can answer them live with you on this webinar. And make sure to click the subscribe button on this page so you can be notified about more live streams like this one in the future. Okay, perfect. So let's start with your journey, Elric. So when you first started out, what was your experience like?
You mean as an SDR?
That's right. Yeah.
So it was almost 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. So for me, my first job as an SDR, I was not an SDR officially, so I was doing marketing for a company, but I've started with a phone, an Excel sheet, and no tools at all. So it was really like maybe the old way, but that's the first process I did as an SDR. And I learned a lot, but also how I started, that's funny because when you and a predictable revenue team, you asked me to be on this live today. It's thanks to the book that Aaron Ross wrote a few years back. And basically, I used what Aaron talks about, the process he used to use with his team at Salesforce. So that's what I was doing. I was working in Mexico with a Mexican SMB company, and I was using the techniques that Aaron was using with his team.
Yeah, that's quite fascinating. And when we were chatting earlier, you had mentioned that it was a bit because of Aaron's book that you actually got into sales in the first place.
No, that's right. Because basically the company hired me for doing marketing, but basically after talking during a few months with the owner of the company, basically was asking to get leads for the sales team. And I was looking for content, so I was reading blogs and everything. And at some point, I found the book, I bought it and used it. And yeah, the first few months I've started to book between 10 and 20 meetings per month, something like that.
That's fantastic. That's really, really great. So today is very different from when you started, correct? Like I certainly know it might as well be a different industry than from when I started. So why is the sales journey harder than ever right now?
I think the first thing, it's the buyer journey is evolving. So maybe before, but before B2B buyers, when they are trying to buy products, they need to talk with a salesperson before thinking about a product, because you don't have a lot of information about tools or about the solutions you have. So B2B buyers need to be engaging with a salesperson to get this information. But today, with there is two things. I think there is more and more solutions for problems and more companies producing content. And so B2B buyers, they can inform themselves, educate themselves on solutions before talking with a salesperson. And so generally, if it's inbound or outbound, I think it's the same for both. Generally, when they will take the meeting with the SDR, or say, if I go on the website and take a demo on the website, generally they already have in mind a solution for the problem, or they are pretty early in the problem, in the buyer journey. So I think that's maybe the first thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to, take it one step further and almost add insult to injury, there's almost too much information out there now. Yep. Right. So now, as a buyer, I could go online and research what I want to know, but it seems like there's so much good content out there that it's almost confusing, and buyers are now getting like buyer paralysis or decision paralysis because there's just so much. So I think the role has changed quite a bit as well. So instead of it's just like, hey, this is our product, this is what we're selling, it's part of it is, definitely to be more consultative and distill all that information, make it easy for a person to sort of navigate through all of that, right? So I think that's changed quite a bit in our journey as well, right? So are you seeing a difference between larger and smaller companies?
So right now, with the 2 past years, I was more focused on mid-market. So don't have the knowledge yet on enterprise for right now, what's working and what's not. So I can't talk about mid-market, but yeah, I can see that there is a difference than before. If you compare with before. So I would say, yeah, you have less replies from prospects in general. And but generally, when you get a reply, generally they are more committed to take action on the solution. So if they say yes to a demo, go on the website to take the demo, they are more, they want to find a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems to be like obviously the larger the company, the more background knowledge you need, the more information and all of that. So are you seeing that that's a way an SDR role has changed as well? Before it almost been like dialing for dollars. It's just dial. But now it's definitely more, almost more an account-based approach. And that's where it's evolved. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I agree with that because I think if you compare to before it was just like you said, you just dial, and also the spray and pray approach. So you don't need to figure out what you need to include in your emails or what you need to send on the phone. You are just dialing your prospects without thinking about the context of the company and everything. And now you need to be relevant in your outreach. Even mean about what you sell, obviously. So you need to find companies, obviously, who are a good fit for your company, for your product.
Yeah.
But also we talk about educate your prospects. You need to send them content that they are relevant to them, because if you send something that's not relevant to them, that's you are not educating them. So
that's right. So the whole training process has now changed for SDRs as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I think it's, and what I'm seeing also with the previous job I had, it's hard for some companies to go out of this comfort zone, saying, hey, we just use the spray and pray method to prospect, and now it's more around, hey, we need to be relevant, and that's because that's obviously harder, because the spray and pray method, you can send that to 1,000 prospects, and that's it.
That's it. Exactly. I mean, it's so funny, right? Because even with our clients and whatnot, it's such an ingrained thing in us as salespeople. It's volume. Yep. Like it's all a numbers game. Just get out there and it'll eventually work. I mean, to some degree, that's true. Obviously, the more people you're speaking to, the more chance of, you're going to convert them. But the way we're speaking to them now is completely different. So it's like people do not want to be hammered on the phone or email or LinkedIn or whatever the case may be, right? So when you say relevance, I mean, like you have to be clear, concise, relevant, speak to their pain, speak to, what's going on, like actually care, actually listen. If that's not happening today, there's no way an SDR is going to succeed. But I think we hit the nail on the head here. Is like, this is where it's really transformed what was once considered a very junior role with SDRs to now it's not that at all. Like the skill set required, in my opinion, SDRs have the hardest job in the sales process, right? Like back in the day, like booking a meeting was a sale. Like the hard part was booking the meeting. I know once I had them, I was gonna close them, right? But to get that meeting, that was by far the hardest part. And that was years ago. And now it's become even harder. So I mean, to say an SDR role is junior is just ludicrous right now, because they are the crux of the organization, right? And I think a lot of even people that are thinking of getting into sales and whatnot, they even view SDRs as being a junior role, but that's definitely not the case today. I think you could have a very well-rounded career staying at the top of funnel, right? Would you say that that's sort of what you're seeing as well?
Yeah, no, and what I'm seeing more and more also is I don't think that you can see hire people with no sales experience to be successful, because I think there is really good candidates, for people who can make the transition.
Agree.
But you need to have an onboarding team and a hiring team that can support that. So if you are a company with 500 employees and more, it's easier to get those people because you have a team to train them. But with a startup, for example, if you have only 5 people on your team, it's going to be really hard to train them. So here you need someone who already has experience from another company that can bring this knowledge here. But if you think about it from the prospect and the customer perspective, yes, you need people who can understand them. And I think here it's what I'm seeing also generally in the market, it's people that SDR, I mean, that go just prospect and that's it. They don't try to understand the prospects. They just send emails. They just call to book a meeting. But that's, I think now, like we talked about it. We talked about it earlier. It's now your goal is to educate them, and if it's not with content, it's during your outreach. It's to say, hey, today you have solutions to your problems, but you need people who can understand that. And so you need to have people who can, for example, here at Chili Pepper, we sell to 4 different personas, and that can be hard because you need to understand what the day-to-day of a marketing person is, the day-to-day of a VP of sales is, what else, the revenue team also, the revenue operations team. You need to understand every persona. And yes, we sell a product that you can use for the marketing team, the sales team, but also the RevOps team. But it's not the same pain points. It's not the same metric they are going to care about. So
that's it. Yeah. We actually have a couple questions here that I'm going to jump to, but right before, because while you're on this thread, I don't want to lose my train of thought here. You mentioned, a marketing team and that. So do you think sales, the SDRs and the marketing team should be more intricate, like work together more than before, what we saw before?
Yes. Yes and yes. So here right now also because I'm in the position that I can do that. But when I was in SDR was maybe another answer. But now that in the leadership position, I think SDR team needs to work closer with marketing, because as a team we can work on educate prospects. So with the marketing team, I think there is a lot of different ways how we can work together. But the first thing, it's the content the marketing team is producing, so to work with them to see what's prospects and customer are reading from us. And so I know here at Chili Pepper, what we do is we have the list of the top blog posts we have, and we can use that in our outreach because there is blog posts that people read most than the rest. And so we're going to use that. And we know that's resonate with them because we already have the data on that. So that's something. So yeah, so I mean, we need to more closer with the marketing team.
Smart, right? I mean, those departments have seemed to be so separated in the past, and what ends up happening is a lot of this between sales and marketing, right? Whereas like you say, it's such a missed opportunity instead of like meshing the departments working together, and it's just way more effective. So Elric, you have a question here. Does he have any tips on how to personalize your outreach even more next to researching the DM company experience?
Yes. So I think obviously it depends on the size of the company you're going after, but the smaller the company is, the less you want to personalize your outreach. It's more about being relevant. I mean, so on SMEs, I will go more for personalizing on the company, maybe more on the tech stack or something like that I can use. Mid-market and enterprise, here really focusing on the person and the persona and try to find something on their LinkedIn profile to use that in my outreach. It needs to be relevant because I know if I'm not the only one saying that, but you can go, Christina, I'm not going onto your LinkedIn profile and just talk about maybe the college you went when you were younger, because that's not relevant to what I'm saying. So I need to find something that's relevant to what I'm saying here at Chili Pepper. And that could be the priority of the person, because I know some people on LinkedIn, they are not active. So obviously you have 10-50% of your prospect who are really active on LinkedIn. So it's easy to focus on those because you have a lot of content they share, comment and everything.
That's right.
But then you have those people who are not active, and that's generally the one you are going to find. And those people generally you have on the job description. You can find their changes, their priorities, what they care about in marketing, because you have people who, for example, in marketing, they care more about the customer experience than other people who are focused on revenue. So that's little things that you can find.
Absolutely. And it's really just, providing value at every touch point, right? Like any time you're in front of that person that you're prospecting, it says, am I providing them value? Right. So is this a relationship that they're going to want to nurture? Because every time I talk to this person, they're giving me a little bit of information that I didn't know before, or, it's more a give, not a take, right? You don't have the right to ask for anything yet. So it's like, keep giving until you do have that right.
Exactly. And just before if you want jumping on the next question, I think being obviously something personal about the person, but being relevant, it's the most important, because, for example, last week I got a message from a prospect who bought from us when I started at Chili Piper, and he still remember the email I sent him it was, I think, November 2020, something like that. So, and it was relevant to him because his previous company used Chili Pepper, but then also he was working with a specific industry, and I showed him that I knew that in the email. And so basically he said yes to the meeting, and a month later they bought Chili Pepper. And he still remember the email I sent him a year and a half ago. So obviously it takes more time to to personalize and be relevant, but it makes a difference from the prospect or the customer perspective.
Huge, right? That's what the name of the game is. You have to stand out amongst the thousands, and how else are you going to do that? Okay, another question for you. How to become better when you're a junior SDR in a startup like this person?
Okay, good question. In a startup, generally, if you have other SDRs already at the company, I would say spend time with them, those who are top performer, because you can learn a lot from them. So that's the first thing, because you can learn about the process and everything. Second thing, it's I know maybe you don't have all of this, but if you have Gong or another tool recordings, you can use that, but you want to learn about your prospect and customers. And what I mean by that is trying to understand why they buy your solution, because you can use that in your outreach. Because generally what I'm seeing, and in my previous jobs, it was, hey, here are the cadence that you need to use, the email you need to send, without trying to understand the prospect. And what you see when it's already done by someone else or another team, generally what you have, it's something that someone wrote maybe a year or 2 years ago, and it's not relevant to the pain that your solution solves. So you need to do this research. Obviously it takes time to do that, but spend time to watch those recordings from your customer prospect, saying, if it's a customer, why they bought your solution, but then if it's a prospect, why this person took the demo or the call to see what you do, because generally they are going to explain why, and you can use that in your outreach. If you don't have top performance at a company, you are the only SDR, I will reach out to other SDRs on LinkedIn with companies with a similar size, because if you talk with someone at a 1,000 employee company, it's not going to be the same process. So you need to spend with other SDRs like this. And last tip, spend time to consume content from your prospects. So if you want to understand them, you need to do that. And yeah, maybe no. And the last tip, it's spend time also on self-improvement. So I know it's not rocket science, but it's going to make a big difference, because you buying books, listening to podcasts, is going to make the difference at the end. So
huge. I'm glad you touched on that last point, because that was the one I was going to add. I mean, it's surrounding yourself with all of these. There's so many amazingly talented, smart people out there, and we're at a time in our age now where we have all this information at our fingertips, whether it's, like you say, podcasts and, following thought leaders, and you can have just absorb so much great information from all of these people, right? So like, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you always, right? Like I always say, when you look at your group of friends, you always want to be at the bottom of that totem pole. Surround yourself with people that are better than you, that's smarter with you, and so you grow, right? So that's a huge point, I think.
And like you said, it's because you don't want to invent something that doesn't exist, because what you just mentioned is that you want to use something that someone else used maybe a week ago or a month ago, something like that. So you don't need to go and try new things that no one had tried in the past. So yeah, use your network. If I use someone at your company that can give you this information.
For sure. I like this question. What are your top metrics you hold your team to?
I'm changing that right now. So before I was more on the activities, email sent, calls made, and now I'm trying to be more focused on the conversations than those metrics.
Nice.
So did you read Atomic Habits?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to change to be more. I'm sorry. No, that's not. No, sorry. Let me restart again. So Atomic Habits, in the book, they talk about not focused on results, being focused on your system and the process you need to have to get to your results. So obviously I can be just focused on the result of the person, and that's the really good indicator to follow if the person is successful or not. But as the system the person is working on, obviously emails and calls sent is a good one. That's a system they can have. But I think it's easy to send 200 emails per day, making 50 dials per day.
That's not like baseline type stuff, right? Yeah, just what's required in your job.
Exactly. But now it's easy to do that, because it's not quality, it's quantity. And because what we are saying, the SDR job is changing. Now it's more focused on the conversations. It's not the same. It's not focused on the results, but it's focused on, hey, how many emails did you send to get 10 conversations?
Exactly.
Instead of, hey, I've sent 200 emails and get one conversation, for example.
Right. Yeah. So that's just such an interesting way to look at it, right? Because so many leaders out there are still doing that old school sort of way. It's just like, okay, it's just like, well, this person made 5 emails and booked 2, and this person made 100 and booked 1. Like, who are you going to reward here, right? And so that's just it. It's the metric should reward the right behavior, right? Exactly. So if the metric is hundreds of calls, well, then they're going to make hundreds of calls, but they're going to be crappy, right? Yep. But if the metric that you're holding them to, or what they get comped on, is the quality of those calls, or now it's not the calls, but it's the meeting booked, and not even take it one step further, not even the meeting booked, meeting attended. So it's not just booking a bunch of no-shows and, meetings that aren't qualified. These are people that actually like showed up for the AE and are actually interested. I mean, that's, rewarding the right behaviors that we're looking for, right?
Exactly. And also that made me think that right now I have someone who's on my team that she was doing a process before, and she was trying a thing. So she was trying, I'm sorry, she was doing like sending 200 emails per day. And then she realized that maybe that was not working working for her. And now she's focused on the conversations instead of the number of emails she's sending per day. And since then, also, she's more thinking about how she can stand out, not just, hey, I need to send my 200 emails to just get meetings. No, now she's focused on the conversation she's having every day. So.
Exactly. Okay, I think we have time for one more here. Do we have time for one more? Yeah, we can do a quick one. Hopefully you can answer this quickly, high level anyways. What is your onboarding process for new SDRs?
Good question. So now we have, at the stage we are at Chili Piper, we have a team of 30 SDRs. So the onboarding process changed a lot since I've started here. But right now we have a dedicated onboarding SDR manager to manage the team. So during 1 month, they have a proper manager for the onboarding. So week 1, it's a mix of videos training, tests that they need to do, and then also meet the team in general. So it's I would say it's just learn about Chili Piper culture, meet the team because we are a remote team. So it's not we can go at the office and meet everyone. So they need to meet some people on the team. And then week 2, after getting trained on tools, the process, the products we have, and how we can help prospects, the main personas we are working with, they start prospecting, but they still have trainings on top where they, I would say, month 1, it's a mix of training and practicing, but practicing also directly with the prospects.
That's fantastic. That's great. That was quick, eh? We're at time. Look at that.
Nice.
It's amazing how quick a half hour goes by when it's good conversation and good quality content, right? So Elric, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here. I know it certainly warmed everybody when we heard that you got into sales because of some of the things that, Aaron Ross of Predictable Revenue had started. And that's just so great to hear because that's what it's about, right? So lastly, everyone here who is listening, thank you so much for the questions. Thanks for being engaged. If you guys have any further questions that you would like answered from us, please, follow the link below, let us know. We'll do our best to get back to you. And of course, if anyone is interested in finding out more about the services that either Predictable Revenue offers or Chili Piper, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're happy to have those conversations with you. So thank you again, Elric. Have a great evening because you're Paris time. I'm going to continue my morning and look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks, Christina.
You bet.